Rise, Meg.
The Force will be with you.
Hello my dear friends and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video we're going to be talking about big news for the Mandalorian Universe and more. As always guys, before I dive into it, please may I ask you to hit like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new and a huge welcome if you are, and also be sure to hit that big notification bell to be alerted each and every time that I post new content to the channel. I also want to thank you all for 58,000 subscribers, it means the world to me, and we're on the road for 60k. So without much further ado and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. The Mandoverse is expected to explore alternate timelines. This is something I've spoken about in the past when it comes to the Ahsoka Tano series, but I've also seen this article somewhere else, but they didn't mention that it was the Mandoverse. They just stated Lucasfilm reportedly wants to explore alternate Star Wars timelines. It is most likely going to be for the Mandoverse because that's what Lucasfilm are really investing in, especially when you consider The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Rangers of the New Republic, and Ahsoka. So what it says is, according to Intel, Lucasfilm and Disney are considering the possibility of exploring alternate timelines to see how the galaxy would have turned out if some significant events had gone the other direction. There's no word yet if it's planned to be live action, animation, theatrical in the Mandoverse or not, but it's definitely something that would pique the curiosity of the fan base. Having said that, I think it's worth noting a lot of fans really despise this idea, while some fans think it's a great idea. Interestingly, this is not the first time we're speaking about this. A few months ago, a lot of fans were talking about the possibility of using the World Between Worlds in Ahsoka Tano to put the Mandoverse on a completely different timeline to the Sequel Trilogy. While I don't think this is going to happen, the use of the World Between Worlds and alternate timelines in Star Wars is certainly going to be an interesting one, but they have to do it right and not confuse fans, because it goes without saying that it's a very slippery slope. The minute you tamper with storylines that fans have known to be concrete canon, is potentially the moment you start ruining them. Again, this piece of news doesn't have much substance behind it and we don't really know what they're referring to, and no further information is given, so it's really hard to judge at this point, but I want to know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. So now guys, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Visions. So as we know, there are 3 shows that are coming out this year. We've got The Bad Batch on May the 4th, The Book of Boba Fett in December, and at some point, probably in between those two, we're going to have Star Wars Visions. Very little is known about it, but now we know that there is a novel coming out called Ronin. So the fact that we're getting an official Star Wars Visions novel tells us a lot about the show. And its title also tells us more than you might think. So let's dive straight into the article and then we'll talk more about it. Del Rey have taken to Twitter to announce an upcoming novel inspired by the upcoming anime Star Wars Visions Disney Plus show. Promising to be a Star Wars novel like nothing we've seen before, Star Wars Visions Ronin will be written by Emma Mieko Kandon, and I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, so I really apologise if I f***ed that up. While the plot is not known for the book, Star Wars Books tweeted, "Just to be clear, this is not a novelization. This is an original novel, and to tell it, we're so thrilled to have a vibrant new voice in Emma Mieko Kandon joining the Star Wars author family. We can't wait to share more of Emma's story with you soon." So what's really interesting about this, guys, is we can confirm that Star Wars Visions is not just going to be an anime remake of existing Star Wars stories as we previously thought. It's going to be its own thing with new stories from a different part of the Star Wars timeline. So I think it's really worth talking about something which really stands out. The title of the book is called Star Wars Visions Ronin. Now, in case you don't know, the concept of Ronin already exists in canon, and it has to do with Melito culture. So the Melito were a species of insectile humanoids native to the planet of Litoran. They had no eyes or mouth but were capable of sensing their environment using superhuman cilia. So in Melito culture, a Ronin was a male warrior, specifically one who had survived his defeat of his Murmatrix. So a Murmatrix within the Melito culture was a female at the adolescent stage of development. Whenever a Melito hive grew too large to operate efficiently, several Murmatrices struck out their own with warrior followers and battled until the winner became a new queen, gaining the right to establish their own hive. The warrior followers of a defeated Murmatrix all became Ronin, a category of hiveless outcasts. So we did actually see them in The Weapon of a Jedi, a Luke Skywalker adventure, which was a junior novel released as part of the Journey to Star Wars The Force Awakens book series. But something that is worth noting is this might not be the type of Ronin that they're talking about, because on its own, a Ronin is a wandering samurai who had no lord or master. I would say this is the most likely interpretation instead of the insect one, simply because part of the samurai culture is part of Japanese culture, and as we know, Star Wars Visions is a Japanese studio production which merges anime and Star Wars as we know it. In this sense, a Ronin or a Ronin can literally be referring to a Jedi or a Sith who didn't have a master and came to know the Force in an unconventional way. But knowing that this novel and the Star Wars Visions series on the whole is going to focus on a different part of the Star Wars universe and not just retell the same stories in anime has genuinely made me really excited for this series, and I can't wait to see it and to read the novel when it does come out in October. But let me know what you guys think of this in the comments below, and let's now talk about The Bad Batch. Here's a really cool article, Star Wars The Bad Batch, 10 unresolved plot points it must answer. The first one is Wolf and Gregor's chips. The final season of the Clone Wars featured the one moment all fans of the series were dreading, Order 66. Seeing the clone troopers and Jedi we'd watched over the years eventually be turned against each other was never going to be easy. The moment was expertly done, as the series had already set up the plot point of the clones' inhibitor chips back in season 6. When it came time for Rex and the rest of Ahsoka's squad to turn on her, she managed to remove the chip inside of Rex's head. While none of the other clones survived that ordeal, Ahsoka and Rex managed to escape and head their separate ways. By the time Rebels comes around over a decade later, Rex had teamed up with Wolf and Gregor, two previously high-ranking soldiers in the Galactic Republic who, like Rex, also had their chips removed. Fans are still left in the dark as to how exactly Wolf and Gregor fared during Order 66 and when Rex would have found them, so any explanation the Bad Batch could provide would be welcome. The next one is how the Empire abandoned clones. I spoke about this in depth the other day, so I'm not going to reminisce on it, but while we do have a very short canon answer as to when the transition between clone and stormtroopers happened, there are plenty of details which are nuanced which we don't know about yet, and that might be explained in The Bad Batch. Next up, we have the fate of other very important clones. Commanders like Bly and Cody play a prominent role in the series as well as in Revenge of the Sith. Bly was the one who executed Aayla Secura and Cody was the one who almost executed Obi-Wan. Fans are likely aware of some of the fates regarding these exceptional clones. Commander Fox, for example, appears in the Vader comic book series, but is swiftly executed after his men mistake the Dark Lord for another Jedi. Exactly how Cody and the boys dealt with the aftermath of Order 66 would be a very interesting plot point for the show to deal with, especially with fans speculating that he could become the main force behind the sinister-looking elite squad seen in the Bad Batch's trailer. As a side note, it's heavily rumoured that Cody may appear in the Obi-Wan Disney Plus series and Temuera Morrison could be reprising the role. Next up, we have unused and missing Clone Wars content which fans want to see. It's very easy to forget that the Clone Wars suffered an unfortunate cancellation after Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012. The series was cancelled after its 6th season, leaving plenty of planned story arcs on the cutting room floor, with only a few being completed for last year's Clone Wars revival. One storyline in particular would have focused on a young Boba Fett doing some missions with fan favourite Cad Bane. In a similar fashion to Solo Star Wars story, Bane, much like Beckett, acted as a mentor to the growing bounty hunter, until a difference in opinion led to a classic Western shootout. Since we're all talking about Boba Fett again since the Book of Boba comes out in December, a cameo during The Bad Batch would be certainly welcome. Next up, we have how The Bad Batch is going to react to Anakin turning to the dark side. Next, we have Maul's crime syndicate. Another character that still has plenty of story left to tell is Darth Maul. The last time we saw Maul in the Clone Wars, he had savagely fought his way through Ahsoka's clone forces and narrowly escaped Order 66. Using a shuttle on board the ship, he left the doomed vessel as it began crashing into a nearby planet. Thanks to a brief cameo in Solo, we know that he survived, and returned to his crime syndicate following his defeat to Ahsoka. It's clear that Mandalore is no longer a safe place for Maul to use as a base of operations. With the Crimson Dawn criminal organisation spanning across the galaxy, Maul could literally be anywhere. Since Crimson Dawn would still be operating during this time period, it would make sense that the Bad Batch could come into contact with him at some point, even if it's a brief cameo. Up next, we have droid remnants. The point after that is what became of Barriss Offee, and again she could even appear in the Ahsoka Tano series. But a more important point that they bring up is the aftermath of Order 66, looking at it from a different perspective. In particular, the role that the Bad Batch will play in it. Lucasfilm confirmed that the show will take place immediately after the event, but that does not mean that the Bad Batch was not involved in some way. This is something that's left to be seen. And finally guys, we have the Bad Batch in the larger context of the Star Wars universe. While Lucasfilm and Disney have announced several standalone projects in the works, it goes without saying that sooner or later these properties become connected. While there's a direct connection with the Clone Wars, at some point in the show it will need to acknowledge the bigger picture and where the Bad Batch fits into it. The possibilities are truly endless, from the Bad Batch helping to remove Wolf and Gregor's chips to them being the ones who saved Grogu, and this was a rumour and popular speculation going around over the last few months. Anything is on the cards, and I'm sure Dave Filoni has a few surprises up his sleeves for us. As I say guys, I will be covering the Bad Batch on my channel, doing full episode breakdowns every week that it drops. And that brings us to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, guys, and if you did, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell, and also if you're feeling generous, please consider becoming a patron, where for just $2 or $10 a month you can get exclusive access to content that's not found here on YouTube. I'm Star Wars Meg, wishing you all a phenomenal rest of the day, no matter where you dwell in the galaxy. Have a good one.